Hi everyone, my name is Maya Cook and I'm here with Youth Voices to talk about anti-racism and the movement of racial justice. I'm joined today with four wonderful girls from the Mighty Shades of Ebony group. They're here to tell us a little bit about how they use their talent and art to promote anti-racism in their communities and to educate others on the importance of advancing racial justice. So without further ado, girls, would you please introduce yourself, tell us your name, school, and what grade you're in? Cam, would you go ahead and kick us off, please?
Sure thing. My name is Cam Rashid, and I am a freshman at the University of Louisville, and I am the leader of the Mighty Shades of Ebony.
Okay, well, I guess I'm next, I think. Oh, okay. Well, okay, hi, my name's Alicia Thorne, and I'm a eighth grade drama major at Western Middle School for the Arts.
Hi, I'm Love Eden, also known as Lady Love. I am 13 years old and I go to Western Middle School for the Arts as a drama major too.
Hi, my name is Ariel Rashid. I am in 7th grade and I go to Barrett Traditional Middle School.
Well, thank you guys so much for introducing yourselves. I'm very excited to have you here because the work that you've done is just so wonderful and we've been sharing it on our Youth Voices and it's been getting a lot of attention. So, girls, how do you use your talents in art to raise awareness and advocate for racial justice? So, would you tell us like a little bit about the work that you do with the Mighty Shades of Ebony? Cam, would you start us off?
The thing. I mean, I'd say our work through the Mighty Shades of Ebony has not only shaped our perception of like social justice and racial justice, but it's also shaped us as people. Like each performance that we do, it's an opportunity to spread awareness and to express ourselves artistically. And even on top of that, so that like songwriting and even making choreography is a great way for us to express ourselves in that research, especially considering that the research and like all the time it takes to write even a verse of a song is just so monumental. The process of writing and creating is just something I never thought I'd get to experience like this, especially working with the three talented girls that I'm working with. It's just really special to me.
And I love that you guys use like music because I think when you're catering to a younger audience, it definitely makes it more like fun and engaging because some of these topics, I mean, we need to be talking about them, but they can be very serious for young children. Ariel, would you tell us a little bit about like how do you use your talents specifically to advocate for anti-racism?
Well, we study everybody studies issues like food justice, police brutality, and then we write songs about it. And we teach other kids when we go to literacy nights, block parties, and different functions.
Thank you so much for sharing that. And I think your work is so important and you do so many different things to advocate for anti-racism. And I'm sure you're very busy. Love, would you go ahead and tell us how you use your talents?
Yes. So the way we use our talents is we all have our different talents because we're all different and unique, and we all have like a big talent that we each have separately, and we use those talents and put them together to create a masterpiece, and we perform that masterpiece to change like the world.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. And it's really good to use your talents to do good. And that's exactly how you guys are going about this. Now, finally, Alicia, tell us a little bit about how, like, what talents led you to advocate for anti-racism and how you use them. Oh no, you're on mute right now.
I would like to say me along. Hello?
There we go. We can hear you. All right, go ahead.
Okay, so I was saying, me along with Love, we focus in the drama department. So we like with our topics, we like to put a lot of emotion and a lot of seriousness into our work. So when it comes to the group, we like to engage in all of our talents and put it together as well.
That's wonderful.
Thank you.
And you definitely bring the drama to like the No Justice, No Peace video, for example, and like we need that, and it's just so engaging and it's just very inspiring. So, all right, my next question for you guys is what makes you passionate about advancing anti-racism in our communities? So, Ariel, would you start us off on this one?
What makes me passionate is seeing all the people not getting justice and wanting to help them, and also to educate people, and pretty much, yeah.
Mhm. You raise a very good point there because education is really, I mean, the biggest thing that you can do to advance like an issue onto like the minds of all people. Cam, would you go ahead and tell us what makes you passionate?
Well, like I said before, I'm a freshman at the University of Louisville. I'm actually in the Speed School of Engineering for computer and software engineering. And so I've taken a lot of STEM classes, like throughout, I guess, all of my educational career. And STEM is science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. But in all of those courses, I've consistently been like one of the only people of color, especially like Black people, African American people in the room. And it's kind of jarring, and it changes my perception of not only me and what I'm doing, but the field that I'm trying to go into. And Black and brown communities have been systematically denied the same resources like wider, wealthier communities, and that really it's really obvious when you're faced with it in the classroom like that.
Yeah, and I mean, we have all of these like legacies of things that we've done back in history, and it's amazing now that I mean, you're still not even seeing representation of like women and like women of color in your STEM classes. So thank you really for raising that point to us here. Love, what makes you passionate about advancing anti-racism?
So I haven't been through any racial discrimination, but I know lots of people, and I've seen lots of social media posts about people getting hurt by some racist police, and I just want that to like go away because that's hurting the community and the environment in the whole world. And by doing this, we're helping change that.
Absolutely, because when we start to see this violence degrade our communities, you really have to push back some positivity and some education and awareness, which is just what you guys are doing. Alicia, what makes you passionate about advancing anti-racism?
Okay, so the things that are making me passionate about this topic is because I've heard various opinions on the Black Lives Matter movement, and people think that racism is old news and how it happened many years ago and it was settled, but really it's still happening today, and it shouldn't. So we have to do things to help stop it.
I think you bring up a really good point because a lot of people associate racism like, you know, as like an antiquated practice, like it happened with slavery, and it's like no, it's very prevalent right now. And I think the Black Lives Matter movement, one thing it does really well is resurface the idea that we all, you know, have we can have racist tendencies in our communities. So with that, what does racism look like, and how can you identify it? Let's start with Cam, go to Ariel, then Alicia, then to Love.
Well, racism, it's interesting because it's prevalent on different levels. Like it can be individual, it could be systematic, or it could be institutional, or anything like that. It just depends on the situation that you're in, but even if you don't think you've been affected by racism, you have. Because it's so ingrained in our society that even it might not be physical, it could be like emotional or mental. It can have an emotional or mental effect on you. Like say you're qualified for a job, but for some reason you just don't get it. It rubs you the wrong way. You're not sure why. It's because of this ingrained toxic mentalities that we have, these implicit biases that not everyone is aware of. So, but by educating people of their implicit biases, we can help change that and change the societal impacts that it has on like our communities.
I think that's very well said, and I agree with you. Like, we have ideological, institutional, interpersonal, and even this internalized racism, and that's what makes it systematic, because like you're saying, you don't always see it, but it's there, and we need to recognize that by educating others. So, Ariel, what does racism look like, and how can you identify it?
Racism looks like somebody making hateful remarks about another person's culture, race, religion, language. And you can identify it by that's basically what I just said the first section.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think when you know what it looks like you were saying, then you can identify it. I mean, it's really that easy. So, Alicia, what does racism look like, and how would you identify it?
Okay, so in my opinion, you can look at racism and tell what it is, but I'm more of like you can feel like racism, because like from experiences, even though I may not be able to see people staring at me or things, like I always have a feeling that I can feel them just like looking at me and thinking things about me. So that's what I think about racism and what it looks like.
Thank you so much for sharing that. And it's definitely unfair that you would ever have to feel that way. So we're really sorry for that. And it's just you educating other people is helping change that. And you're changing that for other girls too, and boys. So, Love, what does racism look like, and how do you identify it?
Well, racism looks like the separation for color or ethnicity or, well, your race. And the way to identify it is by just like looking around and educating people to know what it is and to help them stop it too.
Thank you, and that's a very good point. And I think you all touched on that. So like it's very important, and that's what really drives this work you do and what makes it important. So girls, once you're able to identify, systematic racism, like we said, ideological, institutional, internalized, and interpersonal, that's a lot. Why is it then important to be so aware of it? Why is it important to also be aware of like supremacy even in our communities? Alicia, would you start us off?
Yeah. Okay. So, in my opinion, I believe that every voice counts in this like statement, because like just like saying every penny counts, like that penny could add up to a lot of money. So I'm saying like if every voice counts, then it could add up to where the anti-racism is a powerful statement in the world.
Thank you for sharing that. Why is it important to be aware about systematic racism and the culture of supremacy?
It's important to be aware of it because if no one knows about it, then nothing will change. And if nothing changes, then people keep getting hurt, people keep dying, and it'll just not be good for the world.
And you're right about it's just important to be vigilant and keep your eye out for this so that we can continue to change it. So Ariel, what would be your opinion on that?
It's important to be aware so you can educate yourself and somebody else when they bring up politics or some of their personal beliefs.
Thank you, and you're definitely right on that. Politics can be a very divisive subject. So, Cam, why is it important to be aware of systematic racism?
Sort of touched on it before, but if you're not aware of it, then you can't combat the effects of it. It's just not as efficient. The more educated you are, the more nuanced you are with your approach to combat it. And sometimes you might be a part of the issue, but you're not even aware of it. So like I kind of mentioned it, implicit biases. It's something that we all have, but it affects us in a way that we're not really conscious to. It's something that it can go undetected, and that's very, very dangerous when it has real life and tangible effects.
And I think you bring up a good point there about implicit bias, which kind of leads us into our next question, because we see it even like in our own government. So what specifically, girls, about our situation in handling racial justice needs reform? So, Love, would you kick us off on that?
Yes. What needs to be reformed? That means what needs to be changed, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. What needs to be changed is, for one, racism, because that's the main thing. And for two, just like discrimination and stereotypes that are actually not true. And what is it called? One stories, because we've learned about one stories in school and social studies, and one stories are like books that just tell about a place but makes it seem like they need help or something, like they're just low on stuff and they don't have anything and they need help. And we need to get those like out of the way, because if we don't, then it'll just keep the racism and stereotypes up, which will make things bad.
Yeah, and it's good to listen to people and believe people too when they talk about racism. All right, so Ariel, what specifically about our situation do you think needs change?
There needs to be fair housing, the elimination of redlining, because that's how generational wealth is built. Police reform, the educational system needs to be upgraded to promote diversity, and criminal justice reform.
I really like the point you bring up there of redlining, because I think that's left one of the biggest legacies that allows us to discriminate or allows our society to get away with it. Alicia, what specifically do you think needs reform?
So I think many people know what is happening in the world, but they're just not saying anything. Like, there are many Black lives that haven't gotten justice yet, and many people watched it happen. And I just think that people feel like they're going to get hated on for speaking the truth and saying what's really happening. But I think what's happened, they should break out of their shells and explain to the world what's really happening, because that's what's going to help us in the long run.
Absolutely, and that's what you guys are doing, and you're doing it in such a positive way where you're getting such a wide audience, because you're getting really people to listen and just not be bystanders. All right, Cam, what specifically about our situation needs reform?
I think we're doing an adequate job right now with research and with education, but we definitely could do much, much better. I've seen a lot of stuff on social media, like just raising awareness and putting resources and links in their bios and things like that, but not everyone's doing it, and not everyone really has their heart in it. They're just doing it. It's performative activism, basically. That's something that definitely needs to be challenged, because while it makes the person in question look better and it might assist the movement a little, it doesn't really it doesn't really give it the full effect. It's cheating, like Alicia mentioned, these Black lives out of the justice that they really deserve. Like signing petitions, contacting our representatives in our government, just advocating for change, stuff like that is sort of being neglected in favor of taking pictures at riots, which just and posting it on your Instagram or whatever, just to make you look good, that's not the change that we need to be inciting right now.
You bring up a really important term there. It's performative advocacy. and you give us a really good explanation of it. Again, it's like when you are, you're raising awareness, but you don't go further than that. Like, you're raising awareness on your platform, but you're not actually encouraging tangible solutions, and sometimes performative, like you're just doing it because it's trendy, or for example, or something like that. So you mentioned a really good point there. So my last question for you guys is, how can we make solutions actionable in our community or in our government? So Ariel, would you kick us off on this one?
People need to vote and policy changes. Also, more diversity in politics in terms of legislators and politicians overall.
Yes, and definitely voting is what allows us to have that more representative government, and that's what makes it so important. So thank you for bringing that up. All right, Alicia, how can we make solutions actionable in our community and government?
Okay, so what I think is there's a lot of people that have the mindset of saying all lives matter, but they really need to think about it and realize that how can all lives matter when there is an issue with Black lives mattering too. So I just think they need to realize what they're saying.
Very well said. Love, how can we make solutions actionable in our community?
Well, like we're doing, we're using our talents. And I know that other people out there have some type of talent. And if they don't, then they can do something that'll help, like donating or signing petitions. But if you have any talent, then you can use your talent to spread the word.
Exactly. You guys showcase what that can look like for people if you have like talents with, like, I know two of you girls were saying you're, drama majors, so you definitely are using that to promote good, and that's wonderful. All right, Cam, you are our last person to speak, so how can we make solutions actionable in our community or in our government?
I think it's really important to realize that our representatives, our congressmen, congresspeople are real people, that they can be reached, and that they're not just this intangible concept of something that's not, that they're not affected or they can't see the same things that we see. It's important to rally your community, maybe even through your school. That's a very good resource that I've used with a lot of environmental or activist clubs. Or maybe you can even start an activism club at your school. Just stuff like that. Stuff where organizations that you're close to, you can use their resources, those people, to help you, to help the cause. Because the effect that you create when you work as a team, like with us, like our team, it's stronger than if we would just be alone or isolated. Because you can combine, like Love said, everyone has different talents and different specialties. So if you can use those together to make something, like new, it's gonna be stronger. It's gonna be better than if everyone's doing it off of their own.
And I think that's a perfect way to wrap up this panel. Thank you guys so much for being here. We will have the Mighty Shades of Ebony on our YouTube and on our Instagram so that you guys can go check out some of their work. They do such a phenomenal job promoting anti-racism and advancing these conversations surrounding racial justice. So girls, thank you so much for joining us today. And you guys, your work is phenomenal.
Thank you so much.
Bye. Thank you.